What's up, everybody? I'm David Hain. Welcome to episode 66 of the A to D From Addict to Disciple podcast. If you would like one-on-one counseling, or to launch or join a group using the podcasts or the From Ashes to Destiny curriculum, please send me a message by email at davidfromatod@gmail.com or go to my website, www.fromatod.org, and click on the contact page. When we come back, we'll get into this episode, which is an interview with Stacy Dodd from DeSoto County, Mississippi. He's an ex-addict and inmate who has founded a community center, authored the book Backpack to the Burbs, and is an executive with Celebrate Recovery and Vertava Health and Addiction Treatment Center in Mississippi. I know you'll enjoy this episode entitled Giving Back. Welcome back to this episode number 66, entitled Giving Back, an interview with Stacy Dodd. Well, I'm honored today to have a casual friend that we only met once, but I hope to keep growing in our friendship, Stacy Dodd. And Stacy, if you could just introduce yourself and talk about your journey going from addict to disciple.
So thank you for having me on. I'm honored that you've invited me to be on your podcast. It's a big honor for me. My name is Stacy Dodd, and I grew up in the South, way down in the Delta, a little town called Dermot, Arkansas, in the cotton fields, and started smoking and drinking at the age of around 7. Grew up, went through high school, smoking weed, and it just escalated. The alcohol and the drug use escalated. It started out just cigarettes, and then a little bit of alcohol, and then smoking marijuana, and then it just grew. And my parents were divorced. My dad was an alcoholic. I ended up moving. My mom took us away from him at the age of 2. We were in Missouri, and she moved to Texas, and then Louisiana, and then I ended up back in Oklahoma. 8th or 9th grade, riding my bicycle around, smoking marijuana, going to Pantera concerts, and it just, it looked like a normal life. I was going to school, I was playing sports, I was, it looked like a normal life, but behind the scenes I was using, and it just escalated. I ended up getting moved back to my dad's house in Joplin, the same dad they took me away from. They moved me back to in Joplin, Missouri, to try to help me get my life straight, and I just migrated right back to the people that partied and things like that. We weren't bad kids. We had a lot of fun. We had creeks and float trips, and, we had lots of fun. We had a great neighborhood. We had a great house. I had a good home. But the drug use escalated, and started using cocaine, and then eventually went into meth. And to make a long story short, had 4 DUIs, lost my license. And before you know it, I'm homeless, living on the streets of Joplin, Missouri, into the woods of Joplin, Missouri, into abandoned houses. I had trails through the woods and on the railroad tracks, and at the end I wouldn't even come out during the daytime. I was ashamed. I would walk down the street. If I ever had to get on a public street, I wouldn't even look over at the cars because I was so ashamed that one of my classmates may see me. And without knowing it, my mom, I had a great mother, and she was a nurse anesthetist. And without knowing it, she had been enabling me for years. And she would send me a couple of $100 every week in the mail in a little envelope. And towards the end, I didn't have an address, and I would go through trails through the woods and sneak over through the back up to the post office. And this little lady would give me the envelope with the $100 bills. And so my mom didn't understand what she was doing.
Wow, yeah. It's interesting how our parents are trying to show love in any way they can. In this way, it was in her absence sending money and not really knowing that they're enabling us in our bad choices. And I was interested as you talked about your normal childhood, just having fun with the guys, experimenting with alcohol and smoking and weed, and then it escalating. What can you see in those teen years that led from just the partying and experimentation to that homeless guy sleeping in the woods, afraid to even be, or ashamed to even be seen by anyone?
And so I'm glad that you asked that question, because I asked myself that same question for many years, and I discovered it in a Celebrate Recovery step study group. And what I learned about my life, I was in a relationship starting at about age 16 with a girl that I met. I just fell deeply in love. I mean, I was in love for the first time, and I was like really head over heels in love. And I went on vacation one year with my mom and came back, and this person that I was with had actually, kind of just, left me to go with one of my friends. And so I was really devastated. I had never felt pain like that before. And so, I had some other friends, and they're like, "Well, hey, we can make you forget all about that." And we started going to the bars and all that, and I forgot about it. But what happened was, I really didn't. I didn't even did not understand it at the time, but I do understand it now. So when she left me, it made me feel ugly. I thought that I thought there was something really bad wrong with me, and at first I was angry, and then I was just devastated, hurt, and I coped with that by going with my friends that partied all the time, and ended up going to bars and things like that. And so, I just really, that relationship breakup is what sent me to the point where I didn't care anymore. And I'm like, I don't even care. And, looking back on my life, I realized that's exactly what happened. And so I started shooting up drugs and using drugs. And once I got addicted, it was all downhill after that. But that's what triggered it.
Yeah, and that's so true of almost, well, actually everyone that I work with. When we begin to look what switch was flicked, it is a wound. It's an emotional stab in the heart, broken heart, feeling that we've been betrayed or we don't fit in or we don't belong. And so, what advice would you give yourself if you would look back at that 16-year-old Stacy dealing with that emotional pain?
Find a mentor. Um, Find someone that you respect, but also, I've learned in my life, if you want to get good at something, find somebody that's really good at it and follow them around. And so I wish I would have spent more time with my family, with my dad, with my grandfather, with my mom. I didn't even understand what I was going through. That was just a way of life that I had lived since I was a young boy. But the advice that I would give them is to seek out a mentor, seek out a coach, talk to somebody.
Yeah, awesome. That's really good advice. It's so important to just be able to talk and share, and equally important to be able to find someone who we know is listening.
Yep.
Uh, and I guess another tool that you didn't mention, you've recently written a book. Can you give us a snapshot view and the title and how people can get a copy of that?
Yes, sir. I would love to. So, I always wanted to tell my story. I always wanted to leave, in case something ever happened to me. I just wanted the story to be told. And we sometimes I think we don't realize how powerful our story can actually be. Sometimes I don't think we understand the magnitude of what our story could actually do. But I wrote a book, and it's called Backpack to the Burbs. And the reason I chose that title is because towards the end of my addiction, I was literally riding around on a stolen bicycle, with nothing but a backpack. I was what you would call a tweaker. I was pillaging and dumpster diving, and staying up for weeks at a time, and going from meth lab to meth lab. And so I was on a bicycle, and living in the woods, and like I said earlier, and so I wrote the book, and it talks about growing up in the South and in the Delta, and it talks about being in the cotton fields as a kid. It talks about going through high school. It talks about running from the police, but it also talks about when I was in prison and what I went through in prison, and what when I gave my life to Christ in prison and got baptized in prison, and led a group in prison, and then came out and had to rebuild my life and work in a hot warehouse for, like, I worked there 11 years. And it talks about how I became founded a community center called the Hope Center here in DeSoto County, and how I got nominated for, I actually won Man of the Year in a city here in DeSoto County in 2017, and been nominated a couple of times for Nonprofit Leader of the Year and different things like that. And so all of these things happen. And so I tell my story in my book, but the book is all about Jesus. And, I never knew anything about Jesus. When I was sitting on that log that day, right before I went to prison, crying out to God, I was like, the only thing I knew was Vacation Bible School. I knew Noah, Moses, the ark. I knew the stories, but I didn't know who Jesus was. I didn't know what the gospel was. I didn't really even know what the Bible was. And so when I was in prison, there just happened to be a Bible laying there. And I'm like, well, I've got 6 years and I might as well just read the Bible. And I read it, and I just got infatuated when I got in the New Testament with this guy named Jesus. And all of a sudden my life just transformed, and every day my life just gets, the fire just gets hotter and hotter. I mean, the Holy Spirit just continues to blow my mind away and lead me and guide me and do all those things that God's word promises. So you can get the book on Amazon. It's called Backpack to the Burbs.
Yeah, awesome. And we will have your contact information and the book information in the episode notes if anyone wants to pick this up.
Yes.
And Stacy, I can hear your passion that you have for your spirituality, your passion that really you found in jail.
Yeah.
And I'd be interested to hear, when did you first become passionate about giving back, about getting involved in recovery and helping other, men and women and younger people find the freedom that you found?
Yes, sir. Great question. So when I got out of prison, I came to Memphis with nothing but a backpack. I just had a couple of changes of clothes and a soft cover Bible and a couple of little pendants in that backpack. And my mom gave me one last chance. And so I moved here to Memphis. I was on parole. And so I had to have a job. I didn't think anyone was going to hire me. I ended up getting a job for $8 an hour. And I went to work every day. I went to see my parole officer. I wasn't using. And for about 6 years, I didn't even go to church. I was just watching TD Jakes and Joel Osteen and Joyce Meyer on TV, and I was really just fell in love with their messages and the way that they were presenting the Word of God. And I was reading my Bible, and I met a lady in 2008, and we ended up getting married. And I moved out here to South Haven. We built a house, and eventually moved my parents in. But I started going to church with her for the very first time, and we ended up at a church called Colonial Hills, and within a couple of weeks, I was in a jet plane. I was in a 747 flying to California to a Celebrate Recovery summit, and
Wow.
started leading through Celebrate Recovery. And I became an open share leader and a step study leader, and then a ministry leader, and then now I'm a state representative for the global ministry Celebrate Recovery. And that's when I started giving back. And when I started giving back, my life exploded. I mean, doors started opening. God used Celebrate Recovery to lead me to my job now as the area vice president of Vertava Health of Mississippi. He used Celebrate Recovery to lead me to the DeSoto County Jail Ministry, where we've led thousands of men to Jesus. He used that to lead me to the community center that we have. We're actually a Memphis Grizzlies affiliate. And so all these things happened. But when I started serving, my life just exploded and my energy just increased. I mean, it still just gets hotter every single day. So, I mean, it's just amazing. It's just amazing. And so I encourage anyone listening, give back. Just do, if you do anything for anyone else and pay attention to what God's doing, he'll start paying attention to what you're doing and give you the desires of your heart, just like his word says. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. If you were talking about a corporate career, people would say, wow, you were really on the fast track.
yes, sir.
It just seems like, you got right into this recovery field at 60 miles an hour. And the highway just kept opening up in front of you, which is awesome. And I have so many guys in recovery that I work with, especially as they are finishing their 12 steps, that they want to give back and they want to help other people, and they assume that the only way to do that is to try to become a full-time counselor or something like that. So I'd like to ask you, what would you give to someone as advice who would want to pursue a career path in recovery?
Step into the role. If God's calling you to do something, you have to step into it. You can't shy away from it. You have to step into that calling, and you have to step in many times, especially when we're coming from an addict to in the executive world. You have to step into that calling when you don't know everything and when you don't have all the answers, and you also have to be humble enough to be led. and understand that you're never going to have all the answers, and you have to be humble enough to ask for help. And if anything we go into, if we think we know it all, it's been my experience that God will let us know that we don't know it all.
Yeah, that's so true. Not only admitting to ourselves that we don't know it all, but also coming to the realization that we never will. And we've got to run with what we know, and we've got to trust God to give us the words when we don't have them.
And what that is when you've been to rock bottom, it's the greatest gift next to our salvation, in my opinion. When you've been to rock bottom, it creates in you an unconditional love for other people that nothing else can. In other words, for the rest of my days, I'm going to love people differently. I don't care what their name is. I don't care what they've done. I don't care if they take a hammer into my truck. I don't care what they do. I'm going to love them unconditionally because I know what it feels like to be shamed. I know what it feels like to be have no one in the world believe that I can make it. I know what it feels like to be in prison for 14 months and have no one visit me. I know what they're going through.
Yeah, that's so important to have that credibility.
Yep.
That I've been there, I've been in your shoes.
That's exactly right. And what I'm trying to convey to them is that for the rest of their lives, because they are in recovery, because they have had addictions, because they have been to rock bottom, all this stuff is, if they allow it to, all of our pain, everything that's been done to us or everything that we've ever done automatically transforms from a negative to a positive the very second we start helping other people. And you can help other people by just saying, hey, you can do it. Hey, this is a great program. You should give it a chance. Hey, don't give up. Hey, it's so easy to take all of our past and turn it into a positive, but nothing else turns it into a positive until we start using our past to help other people. So today, the fact that I was a liar, junkie, and a thief, those are my greatest tools.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I think, the nugget that I picked up there at the end is that transition or that transformation of when we realize that the pain that we went through has been transformed into a gift that we can share with others in the same pain. Thanks for listening to this episode of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast. If you enjoy these podcasts, please share the link with your friends. If you'd like to support our work with people caught in the snare of addiction, homelessness, or incarceration anywhere around the world, click on the support link in this episode's description. Your donation of any amount could change a life. Tune in Monday for our next episode, and as always, stay safe and stay strong.